very small head. It's not quantity, it's quality that counts. Is my hat in it?
Okay, so this is the most nervous interview I've ever done. I don't know why. I don't really even know what to ask you. I've watched everything that's out there that you've put out, almost. I spent 2 months watching almost nothing but Joel Salatin content a couple years ago.
Well, you must be brain damaged by now.
I just felt what you had to say was important, especially when you were interviewed over the kids and the recruiting aspects through the schools and stuff in the small towns. And I think that's maybe where I saw you the first time. I was watching some regenerative soil stuff, and your name popped up several places, and those led to those others. I've known Jack Spirko since episode 2, so 13 years or so. And I know people tell you all the time, hey, because of you, I've done these things. And I get some of that, and my reaction is always, I didn't do them, you were just ready. I just happened to be the person that you heard at the time.
Right.
I'm very excited to have you here. And I met you at Rogue Food Conference. The only reason I even went to Rogue Food Conference was because I heard Joel Salatin was going to be there. And I came in 20 minutes late. The event had started, and you were sitting out front, and I said, holy shit, that's him. And I didn't know what to say. So what I said was, you were out there taking notes, and I said, you have to be the absolute pinnacle of this entire movement. Do you find that you still need to take notes to do one of these? And what you said, and I've said this 1,000 times, every one of these dudes has heard it. When I met you, you said, I talk to everybody coming in the door because I don't know what message I need to give them. I don't know what they need, so I'm here to find that out. And then I met Neethi, and holy shit, that's a I think you call her a firecracker.
Yeah.
And
a bit of a tornado.
Yeah, a Tasmanian devil is how I describe her. And I've spent quite a bit of time with Neethi, and I would not have. And I've met many, many people because I went to meet you. And I stood there while you said, I think you said, and you said, can I help you? Or, and I said, I'm just burglarizing your conversation. and I heard I can deliver 2,200 tons of meat a week, or I don't remember what it was, but I'm like, I don't know what that looks like in hamburgers, but that sounds like a lot. And then I actually left the event without saying anything to you, and I didn't know what to say to you. And I was out of the building, and I said something. I think God said that he turned me around, and I came back, and I didn't know what to say. And I said, I'm missing something in my life, and he showed up today again, as did most of these guys. I don't pay these guys, and most of them aren't even here for this event. And I said, I'm missing something, and I think that you have a part of it, and I'm not sure what it is, and I'm pulled to do something different than what I'm doing. And I said, I don't know what that's going to be, but it's going to involve you, and we're going to do something together in the future. And you said, okay, crazy person. I'll be on the lookout. I'll let my security detail know. This is the 7th event. We call it the 6th. The first one was just an informal, hey, we're going to do a get-together, and 200 people showed up. And I've been invited to your place many times, as I've been invited to TJ's. And I do a really good job at finding excuses not to leave here. Scully will tell you that I've built a perfect POW camp here. But I'm coming.
Good. We look forward to having you.
I don't know what to ask you, man, that's not already out there.
Well, go ahead.
Okay, I recently heard you say we need to set children on a path. We need to give them a task and then let them fail, and they'll usually correct it. And as you mentioned, pennies and quarters, I heard you say when a child is young, they will always favor the 2 quarters, but as they understand the value of money, they'll take the dollar over the 2 quarters. And then I heard you talking about 2 of the children had tasks or jobs. I think it was sheep and another animal, and your youngest went out and picked wildflowers out of the field and then sold those. And I think community, right? We keep hearing community, and I think when you're like, how do we solve these problems? We have to talk about all these things going on and all this stuff, and really it doesn't matter. It's the community, and how do we build the community? And I would tell you, I've not built any community, but I don't know. Maybe we have. And it's something's missing, and there's an attack on it, right? But at the same time, while they haul you into jail for your child missing school, we can simply say, no, we're not doing that. And then you don't have that problem anymore when you just remove yourself from that. And I think that the framework of church, religion, maybe, like governments love religion because it keeps people, kind of in control. But there does actually seem to be a polar opposite attack on that from governments to get rid of, that structured. It really looks like there's true evil, is what it is.
Well, it's not really a question.
I
know. But I would simply respond to that we have simply tried over the years in our, at Polyface, at our farm, at our business, we started out, first of all, I'm quick to tell people I've never been alone. People think, I'm this great farmer, whatever. And this conversation came up with one of our former apprentices who was out trying to start his own place. He was not married, didn't have anybody. And as we were in the car riding, it struck me, I've never been alone. I mean, I grew up in this house. Then I came back to the farm full time. Mom and Dad were still there. Teresa and I married very early. We were childhood sweethearts. We married early, had kids early. And the different talents that we all had, you kind of gravitate to a niche. And we see it even today with our stewardship program. You bring in these 11 young people from around the country. They've never been together, and on the chicken processing line, you've got stations. You've got load the cones, slit the throat, scald, pull the heads and cut the feet off, evisceration, quality control, and then chill tank. And we want everybody to know how to do every station, but inevitably people just gravitate to, as the season progresses and they get skilled, they tend to gravitate where, people, what do you like to do? I really like gutting. Another one, I really like, killing. I really like making sure all those little pin feathers are right, so it's just perfect, and tucking the legs in, right? And it's just amazing how people find their places. And so I think you're right that this whole idea of relational stuff, America prides itself in rugged individualism, right? We've heard rugged individualism. Frank Sinatra, I did it my way. We've got all this, but very seldom do individuals do something. Normally it's a team. Now there's a leader, there's often a visionary, there's somebody that's driving that force, but the actual accomplishment is a team. Teams do things. And so I think in our pell-mell run to express ourselves individually, we forget that the best expression of ourselves is through collaborators that we've got a team relationship with that actually, move us to a better place. And so over years, we have developed, we have people that do sales. We have people that, we have a full-time mechanic. We have a full-time maintenance tech. We've got an accountant, a business. And so as young people came to us and wanted to stay, all we offered was, well, you see the business here. Where do you think you can fit in and make a salary? In other words, I don't feel like I'm giving jobs. I want them to tell me what they want to do that will fit, that's complementary, and then create a compensation plan. How are you going to make a living? And so basically, we have a team of young people who have made their own position. I mean, so one, does the rabbit. She kind of took over the rabbit enterprise. Another one does grass stains, does our tours. She's our tour person. And another one does the herd. He moves a lot of we've got 1,000 head of cattle, and they're in 3 or 4 herds, and so he moves those herds. He goes around every day and moves all those animals. But all of these people, not only do they have requirements within us to do, but they also know they have an open door policy that if they can conceive of a side hustle that augments, that supplements, that fits, it's an open door. And so one of our couples, they said, we've never done hospitality here. We don't let people camp on the farm. We just don't. Never have. And they said, we'd like to try. Sure, go ahead. So we picked a spot. They bought a non-completed tiny house that a guy had started and then got tired of and quit.
Yeah.
And so they bought that shell, fixed it up nice. Now we have a tiny stay, and this is a nice $20,000 side hustle now that they own. That's their deal. It's not Airbnb. They're just using our website. And we get a royalty. Okay. So it's not completely free, but they get most of it. They do it, and it has brought more people to the farm. So it's a very synergistic, complementary thing. And another gal wants to does mushrooms. Another one does, maple syrup. Another one does cosmetics. It takes our pork fat and beef tallow and makes lip balm and stuff out of it. So I think that part of community is truly I'm not responsible. I'm not responsible for them. That frees me up, so they're willing to take some risks with me. But number 2, I have to realize that our business becomes a manifestation of the interests, skills, and talents of the people we have. If the girl that wants to do the shiitake mushrooms leaves, well, we don't feel compelled to continue growing shiitake mushrooms. That can just die. And so it really adds to the community idea when all my team members know they have an open door. They have an open door to express themselves in a complementary personal autonomy way, and I'm not gonna say I feel competitive or anything like that. It's their baby. So this community is a real tension between working for the common good and yet having enough autonomy to feel like your personhood, your individuality is respected within the umbrella of the group.
How many people are on the farm on an average? What's it take to run the entire operation?
Yeah, so there's about 22 of us that make a full-time living there. That includes some part-timers. So there's more than 22 people, but there's like 22 full-time equivalent salaries is what I'm getting at. And one of the best things we ever did was years and years ago, I did a presentation in Kentucky and met a farm that was real close to the city. So they had access real close to the city. They had access to all these chefs in the city. And so the chefs, and they supplied a lot of these chefs in the restaurants. And so they would offer like week-long farm visits for these chefs to come and cook for the farm staff. And they had, I don't know what, 10, 12 people. And I was so taken by that and the camaraderie that I saw among the staff. I came home, I said, we've got to do this. And we said, well, we can't afford it. How can we do this? We can't hire a chef. We can't, because we're very far away. chef isn't going to come out and can't commute from the town to us because we're on a dirt road. We're right at the edge of the universe. And so took us a couple of years to finally, get to a place where we felt like we could do it. And we've run this now for about 15 years. So during the summer stewardship program, there's roughly 26, 27 of us that live on the farm and eat together on our Monday through Friday evening meal every day, prepared by a chef. We have a kitchen and a pavilion to eat in, and that just revolutionized the community. Partly because we could now work everybody right up until supper.
Right. Oh yeah.
But
you don't have to go anywhere.
Yeah. Right. And they knew that there would be a good supper, waiting for them. But mainly it was just to have that debriefing at the end of a day. If there's an issue, we can deal with it. Tomorrow, here's what's going to happen tomorrow, and you can kind of have this very open, good place to fellowship and plan and debrief. And so it's a big investment on our part, but it's probably one of the best investments we ever made to have a full-time chef for those 5 months. And every chef's been different. Some have been better than others, but there again, if one guy tends, or they're both guys and gals, if one tends toward, for example, casseroles, and one tends toward Vietnamese or Oriental food, fine. We don't have a problem. And of course, the stewards, they're there for the 5 months. They don't know what happened before. We're the only ones that know what happened before. Right. So for them, it's, this is the way it is, Mm-hmm. And but that whole we have done a lot to cultivate within the farm and within the business this community aspect, so that everybody is on the team and we're all pulling on the team.
How do you house all your people? What does that look like?
So, like I said, we have several places on farm. So housing is a real problem because you get into zoning problems. You get into building permits, zoning problems, all that sort of thing. So when we started this, they all want to live on the farm. And so we actually got a used mobile home frame, pulled it in, and we only had guys first. And then, of course, girls wanted to come. Well, we wanted to have girls too, but we don't throw them all together in the same place. Yep. And so we actually rented an apartment about 5 miles away and housed people in there. And then we've done different. I won't bore you with all the things, but we realized we need to get these young people here. And we live in a very conservative community. Republicans beat Democrats 2-1 in our area. And
I think they do everywhere. They just don't count them all.
Well, anyway, it is a conservative farming, community. But that means they don't want anybody around.
Yes.
They don't want anybody around. I don't want a BMW running my John Deere off the road. Okay. And so for years, we have given all the neighbors a Thanksgiving turkey, Christmas turkey, invited them to events when we have them to have barbecue, because there's a fair amount of, there's Polyface putting cars on the road again, this thing. And so there's some animosity there from just, the urban invasion. Well, what we think is that urban invasion is spending money with us.
We bring 1,000 into the tax base here, and you will still have troopers pulling my people over as they leave.
Yeah. It's not same deal. So anyway, well, what are we going to do? So this was one time when I do a lot of don't ask, don't tell, and just do it. But this, we didn't want to get crossways of the tax people. They can be brutal. So I called our supervisor, our elected supervisor, and the Economic Development Commission guy, in charge of economic development, said, come out, I want to talk to you. So they came out. I said, listen, we got these young people. We need to house them. I want to know what I can build without a permit and without getting rezoned with a special use permit. So I want to build a structure without a building permit, and I want to do this, without a special use permit. They said, give us 30 days. Fine. 30 days to their word. They came back. We got 5 things. Pretty cool. 5 things. So here's 5 things you can do in our county without any building permit. Number 1, an ag building, like a barn, shed, whatever. Okay. Including farm shops. Now, when they say farm shop, they mean like welders and wrenches and things like that. We have a farm shop that's a place where people shop.
Right, I gotcha.
Most people would call it a farm store.
Uh-huh.
We call it a farm shop. What more farm shop is a farm shop where people shop? That's not what the regulators had in mind, but you use their terminology. All right, so a farm building. Number 2 is if it's on a chassis. So, an RV, okay? Number 3 is a tree house.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's Swiss Family Robinson, in a tree. Interestingly, the regs are a little unclear as to how much of it has to be in a tree.
Right.
So, and how high it has to be. So can it be on, 2-foot stilts and one corner in it? It's a little bit. So anyway, tree house. Number 4 is if it floats. So I tell farmers around the country, I say one of the best things you can do is build ponds so you can put floating housing in there for people. And we actually came real close to buying a houseboat to put in there. But the problem with the houseboat is maximum deck and minimum living. Well, our people don't want to live on a deck. They're on the farm, right? They're not out in the ocean on deck. So the houseboat all right. And the 5th thing, the final one, was a hunt camp. A hunt camp. Hunt camp. So we have a hunt camp. And interestingly, it doesn't say what you have to hunt. So we have the polyface hunt camp. We're hunting for the truth.
Oh, I love it.
And so we have the hunt camp over there, two structures. One has 4 beds in it. That's for the stewardship girls. And then the other one has 3 apartments. So there's 4 kitchens, 4 bathrooms, a common laundry for the 4 different units. And then the other one has 2 apartments for 2 people. So you can have a married couple or 2 of the same sex in there, apprentices, whatever. And then the middle has 7 beds for the male apprentices. So we have 7 and 4 is 11, 15. We have 15 beds over there that we can sleep in. Then we have another house for another family. Daniel has a house for his family. We have one for ours. Mom is there. My brother, who's an airplane mechanic and doesn't have anything to do with the farm except he does honeybees. He's got about 20 hives of honeybees. He's an airplane mechanic, so he likes anything that flies. So he does the honeybees. He lives on the farm as well. And so we have several, accommodations, and about 25 of us are living there, 26, 27 during the summer, and we all eat together, the ones that are there. So that, maybe somebody listening is looking for some loopholes, and that might be a loophole that you can use for structures, because again, most successful farms, I'll just say this, no farm can be sustainable unless it has 2 salaries. What if somebody gets sick? What if somebody has to go away? 2 salaries from 2 different generations. Mm. So if you're not there yet, then I think the only way you can really have a sustainable farm is to get there as fast as you can. So you have to have a mindset. And most farmers are living in a scarcity. Oh, I can't even pay 1 salary. How could I ever afford 2? And they live in this negative, scarcity mindset. And one of my favorite stories of my dad, who, the older I get, the smarter he was.
Yeah, you have that right, man.
Yeah. So he died young. He died at 66. So I was only 31 when he passed away. Still miss him terribly. But I remember him. So Teresa and I had been there. We came back to the farm full time September 24, 1982. And so it took us about 3 years to where we could breathe, where okay, I think we're going to make it. The engine that could. I think I can. And it took us 3 years to actually feel like, okay, I think we're going to make it. And the next year, Dad said, and this was a year before he passed away, he said, let's do an exercise. So we sat down. I still got the yellowed piece of paper and his handwriting on it. He said, let's write down how many salaries could come off of this place. And so it was 22 that we that we wrote down salaries that come off the place. And remember, Teresa and I were just barely, Dad and Mom never made a living from the farm. Dad was an accountant. Mom was a school teacher, but their off-farm jobs paid the mortgage. So Teresa and I were able to start debt-free. There was no going concern, but there was no debt. Mm-hmm. So that was, I stand on the shoulders of greatness. Literally, 2 generations that lived below their means instead of above their means. That's the way you accumulate wealth, is every generation lives a little bit below its means, and gradually, you accumulate. And so the more I think back on it, and the more I talk to old farmers that are just completely, done, for him to that early in he saw where I was going. He said, you're going to be fine. We're going to do this. Let's talk about how many more people you can bring on here. So he was already looking out, thinking in the future. You're going to hit 40, you're going to hit 50, and you're going to have some aches and pains, and you might hurt an arm, you might have a chainsaw accident. Let's get some people together.
Now at that 22 jobs employed off that property, how big was that property?
Oh, at that time we were only 90 acres open. Now we had a lot of woodland that we didn't even have access to because there was no road yet. So about 2 years after Dad passed away, we worked out a deal with a local logger to come in, and I had asked. So we were 550 acres, which is a pretty good tract. Dad and Mom bought that. Listen to this, in 1961, 550 acres, plus the house, plus the barn, plus the shed, plus the tractor, plus a baler, plus a rake, plus a mower, for $49,000.
What year was that?
1961.
61.
$49,000. And at that time, you could raise a feeder calf, half of one on an acre, and that calf was worth $180. So half of that was $90. So at $49,000, that's $90 an acre. Okay, so the market price, $90, was identical to the annual production price of half a calf. Okay, 90 to 90 is 1 to 1.
Yeah.
Today, the land is $7,000 an acre, and that feeder calf has gone to $700. Half of that's $350. That's a 20 to 1 ratio. So in my lifetime, the land to production, the market value of land to production, has gone from 1 to 1 to 20 to 1, and that's why what Grandpa did doesn't work.
What's the most profitable currently per acre that you're involved with?
You mean on what we do?
Mm-hmm.
So when we stack everything, so when we raise broilers, cows, turkeys,
just succession,
feather net, in succession. Yeah, they're not on the same square foot at the same time, but they pass, throughout the year. Yeah, we're looking at a gross in of somewhere between $20,000 and $25,000 an acre, with a profit margin of 30%. Okay, so it works. We can't do that on every acre because every acre, some of them have, have stumps or, different things. But, when you start stacking these complementary enterprises, it's astounding what it'll do for you.
Now, for anybody listening, you just heard 90 acres and 50 acres. I did hear Joel tell somebody that he's seen amazing things happen in 2 acres. 2 acres is not even considered a city lot any longer. And there was a lady in extreme panic almost about producing food, and he's like, you have 2 acres.
Yeah, 2 acres is a lot. You can do a tremendous amount. I mean, 2 acres, if you just say your probably house is taken up, house and whatever, your curtilage, it's called legally, is taking up half of that. You've got an acre and a half. You could raise 1,000 broilers on that. 1,000 times $20 a piece is $20,000 with a 30% margin is $6,000 to go to your overheads, taxes, and that sort of thing on an acre and a half. And we haven't even raised a cow yet. We haven't done whatever $10,000 worth of eggs. We haven't raised $2,000 worth of Thanksgiving turkeys.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the whole idea of this. Permaculture talks about stacking a lot, and the stacking is where you go. But that, the average farmer never thinks in terms of stacking. I'm a beef cattle. I'm a apple grower. I'm a, one thing. And so one of the beauties of having mobile infrastructure like we do with the like with the chickens and everything is there's not an acre of land in the world that wouldn't benefit from pastured poultry.
Yep.
So you can layer that on any place. I mean, the reason the average American farmer is 60 years old is because when old people can't get out, when young people can't get in, old people can't get out. And this 20-to-1 land cost is making a big hurdle. But if you don't have to buy the land, if you can come onto an existing place and build a mobile operation on that place, you eliminate the land cost. Now you have a way to enter.
Where do you think all those kids are? Have they left the families and they don't have interest and they've escaped, or we just didn't have the kids that we needed? Where is that next generation?
That next generation is not on farms today. Many farmers don't want their kids to be farmers. It's too hard. It's too worky. Blah 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 blah. And besides, when the kids grow up, and all their life, all they hear is dad complaining about weather, price, pestilence, and disease.
Monocroppers.
Yeah, and crying, and what kid wants to follow in their parents' footsteps when all they hear is negative all the time? And so I think the next crop, if you will, of farmers is going to come from families who have not been farming. I mean, that's what we're seeing. We run this stewardship apprenticeship program, and we'll have we're getting ready to do checkouts. We have anywhere from 95 to 105, 110 applicants a year for 11 spots, and only not 1 in 100 actually comes from a commercial farm. 3 or 4 or 5 of them might come from a homestead, something.
Some of them have never seen a chicken.
Most of them have never seen a chicken. They don't know what anything is.
Is it difficult to select the applicants?
Well, we have a very formal process. That is designed so that the staff doing the selecting doesn't argue. So it's pretty clean.
I have no idea what this is, but I know it's going to be good.
Well, so what we do is, so that the procedure is we open up a website for 10 days a year, August 1 to August 10, for applicants, for what we call queries. You query, we send you an application. The application's 10 questions. One of them is a video, is a 30 to 60 second video. And 5 or 6 of us read through all those applications, look at the videos, and we prohibit each other from discussing them. They have to be individual. I'm going to read them. Daniel's going to read them, and we're all going to read, and we're all going to make our decisions, and nobody can talk. In fact, we have a prohibition. You can't even go up and say, "Hey, did you see that? That guy from Tucson? Wow, what a crazy, No. We literally prohibit discussion. It's like a courtroom. You can't discuss this. All right. That way we truly capture, nobody's prejudiced or biased from somebody else's, idea. Then we all come together and we say, we go down the list, Joy, Chartwell. Yes, no, yes. So that goes in a 3 yes, 2 no pile. And you literally have the piles, and yes, yes, yes. When it's all yes, that goes in this pile. A lot of them are all no, they go in this pile. But you have all this in between, and if we get enough all yeses, so what we would then want to do is we want to bring about 40 to 45 for the 2-day checkout. So we're picking something under half, like 40%. We're going to invite them to a two-day checkout. They have to come to the farm. They have to get there on their dime. Now we'll go to the airport and pick them up, but they have to come on their dime. And so if we get 40 to 45 in the all yeses, then meeting's over. We're done. We eat our, we usually bring some raw milk and chocolate chip cookies, and and you turn this into a fun thing. But if we are short, we're maybe 37, 38, then we go to the all yes but one no pile, and we look at that, and everything below we don't even look at.
Got it.
So that way we're not arguing among ourselves to everyone. I mean, that would take forever. So this is very efficient. Then we invite for the 2-day checkout. Everybody comes, and they have a 10-day window to come in a 2-day checkout. Doesn't suit, sorry, and the 10-day for query, we have a deadline for the queries, a deadline for the applications, and a window to come. And if it doesn't suit, sorry, it doesn't suit. We don't know if you're a minute late, too bad. If you're no concessions, 0 concessions.
Right.
And so the checkouts come, and we obviously work up some really brainless, brawny, pick rocks, chip wood, pick up firewood. Yeah. And we work, and they got to be there for 2 days, be with us, eat with us. And then at the end of that, then we come together, and the assignment is everybody bring your 11-member A team. Again, nobody can discuss. During that checkout, we're all, taking this team and that team. We're doing different things, we got to stack chicken shelters over here. We got to lay a water line over here. I mean, there's all sorts of projects we do. You can imagine. I mean, it's like having an army. I mean, we get a lot of stuff done those 10 days that they're there. And because sometimes there'll be as many as 10 or 11 in one day. So they're rotating through on 2-day trajectories. They leave. We all come together again. We order in pizza and make a fun time of it. And we have a whiteboard, and we start. You're 11. Okay, that's Daniel. All right, Eric, you're 11. He gives his 11. Well, 6 of them are repeats, and 5 of them are new. Okay, so you just tick, tick, tick. The 6 repeats, 5 of them are new. You can see, we just go around the room, and very quickly, in just one pass, a clear front group emerges. If anybody gets unanimous, they automatically, they're in. Okay. So usually, there's 6 of the 11 will usually be either unanimous or all but one. I mean, so they're already in. Boom, we're done. Don't have to discuss it. Don't have to spend any time. We're all done. And then, of course, amazingly, about half of the checkouts don't even get one mention. So they're not even in a running. So then we look at everybody else's name is on the board. Half of them didn't get on the board. 6 of them were clear fronts. They're over here. Now we go to the rest. We need 5 more. Okay. This is the new pool. Everybody revote for these, and you pick 5, and we just do it again. And so you can see how the whole procedure here is to have us not infight, not bicker, not drag this out, not turn this into a thing. So then after the second go, we're usually down to, we pretty much, again, there's another 2 or 3, 4 that are front. So then you get down to the final couple, and you've got these, and then you start looking at, all right, this person has particular talents, or this one I'm really concerned about, or whatever. And, you really discuss the last 2 or 3, but that's that's really all the discussion is about. That's how we do our selection.
And what commitment is that? How long are they there for? Once
All right, so that
selected?
commitment is May 1 to September 30,
Okay.
with no exceptions. In other words, we have people that well, I'm not going to be out of school until May 10th. Sorry, you got to wait till next year. We on the application, one of the questions is there anything that will keep you from not being able to fulfill this completely from May 1 to September 30? We want that commitment up front. Now, if somebody says, well, my brother's getting married on August 20th, can I go to the wedding? Absolutely. That's not a problem. But what we want everybody to understand, this is real. This is boot camp.
Physical abilities necessary?
Physical, you've got to be able to move a chicken shelter.
Okay.
If you can't move a chicken shelter, we won't take you.
Got it.
And food allergies, that's a tension for
Yeah,
us.
yeah.
That's a real tension for us. I'll tell you this: we do not take vegans.
Oh, imagine that.
I mean, and if somebody says they don't believe in killing animals,
that
obviously
might be an issue.
Yeah, it might be. But we do it gracefully. We don't say, well, you're a bad person. We say, look, there's a bunch of vegetable operations. Don't come here. You'll be traumatized every day because we kill stuff every day.
This is for you.
Yeah. But go to a potato farm. Go to some. There's other places.
How many of your children work within your operation or direct family members?
Yeah. So we have two children, Daniel and Rachel, and both of them had their entrepreneurial things as kids. Daniel stayed, and he now runs day-to-day operations.
Right.
I'm the most expendable person on the team now. When I leave, there's not a bobble.
That feels good, doesn't it?
It does. Alan Nation used to tell me, he's the founder of Stockman Grass Farmer. He's my best mentor besides my dad. And he always said, everybody should aspire to a point in their life when you wake up in the morning, you don't have to do anything you don't want to do. Mm-hmm. And I'm pretty close. So that's exciting. But yeah, Daniel runs day-to-day operations. Rachel, our daughter, lives 10, 12 minutes away, and she is a deputy planner in the planning commission of the nearby county. Not our county, but the next.
Too bad it's not your county.
The county next door. But I love listening to her stories and what they're dealing with, because they're similar to what's going on in our county. And just here, she's in a great work environment, good group of people, very conservative. I mean, her boss has a picture of Stonewall Jackson and Robert E. Lee on the wall, and you don't see very many government people with, pictures of Stonewall Jackson and Robert E. Lee on a wall.
Now, you've had some interactions with some of the departments of making you sad. How would you recommend, when somebody gets initial contact from those people, how would you recommend that somebody handle that initially, and what should be the progression? I'm 0 to 100, and then Dana's getting me out of jail. I think Dana's over there. Is Dana over there? I guess Dana. Yeah.
All right. So here's the thing you have to understand when dealing with bureaucrats or regulators, okay? Very seldom do they fine you or imprison you off the get-go. Normally there's a cease and desist, there's a something, okay? They don't come out of the blue and bring the hammer down. So when we've had our battles with where I am now is, if I got a call from a regulator tomorrow, okay? Number one, I don't talk to them. Everything's in writing. They will lie to you.
Yep.
They will tell you anything. So I don't speak to them. Now, I'm not hateful. I just say, I don't talk to regulators. Everything's done in writing. Well, that slows everything down by a year, because now they understand if it's written, now it's part of a record. Right. And now they've got to run it by their superiors and maybe the attorney general and whatever.
Evidence.
Yes. So I know we farmers, we are very a trusting lot. We assume that when a guy wants to, let me come out and see what's going on, we don't assume that they're, in up for no good.
Should we assume if they're showing up they have a warrant, or should we?
No.
Yeah, well, you gotta have to come back with a warrant.
Yeah, I do that. We had when we had avian influenza outbreak, 12 years ago in the area, we had two, you know, cars of bureaucrats come up, and they demanded to see our chickens. I said, "You're not getting out of the car without a warrant." And they kind of,
You might have avian influenza you're bringing here.
yeah, and so anyway, they didn't get out of the car. This was Friday evening, 6 o'clock. Drove into our yard. We were having a picnic. I was out back, and somebody said, "You might want to come out here." I went around the front, and here's these two bureaucrats in the middle of our picnic tables on a Saturday at 6 o'clock, demanding to see our chickens.
You need more gun shooting going on.
And so I went around and I said, and I wouldn't let them out of the car. Well, I fully expected them to come back Monday morning with a warrant. They never came back. And I've had calls from regulators, need to come and see you, whatever. Send it to me in writing. You never hear from them again. I just think this in writing thing and get a warrant thing, it sounds inhospitable, but let me tell you, it's inhospitable when they show up. I mean, our first great big battle was they showed up one time and accused us of selling uninspected meat and impounded our meat at the slaughterhouse. We had half our year's in. This was early. This was early. This was, half of our year's income hanging at the slaughterhouse. They put police tape on it and impounded it. They were going to confiscate it. And, anyway, it was a week. It was a week of back and forth. The guy parked on our doorstep, and boy, when those people come and they flash their big, bronze badge, we think it's cool on TV when we see, crime sitcoms, and it's not cool when it's on your doorstep. It is very sobering. I mean, you melt. You just, it's the power of the state. I mean, it's a very sobering thing, and so immediately I called our elected representatives, our delegates, our senators, and got them involved, and we won that. We won that, but it was very, very sobering, and so my advice is, do not treat them like you would somebody who has your best interests at heart.
Oh, they absolutely do not.
And make them earn the right to see, to do, to be involved. And that's where I am. And that all creates space. As soon as you have it in writing, everything slows down like by, a year to two. It takes a long time to punch through that.
Is it possible to get those laws changed? I know I've heard you speak about that.
Yeah, well, I mean, there are numerous things that are happening right now around the country. Food sovereignty laws, cottage food laws. There are a lot of things that are developing in this space, but they're fairly feckless for the most part, because most of them aren't dealing with meat and poultry and dairy. And the problem with meat and poultry and dairy is that's half of the consumer dollar. And if we're going to make a change in our food system, we need to deal with meat, poultry. I mean, you can pull off on any wide spot in a highway in the U.S. and sell tomatoes or crookneck squash, but you can't pull off a highway and sell, a chicken.
But is it true that I can process my chickens? I could take the raw meat, put it in a Ziploc bag, unrefrigerated, and put it out on the street and put a sign that says free, raw, unrefrigerated chicken. Not a problem.
That's exactly right.
Only when there's an exchange of money.
That's right. That's right. So you can give it away, but you can't take a penny for it. And so the question is, well, what is it about taking compensation that suddenly turns it from benign to a hazardous substance? So clearly, it's not about food safety. It's about market access. And right now, I mean, I just testified before Congress to this congressional committee. Thomas Massey.
I've met Thomas Massey.
Convened, Congressman Thomas Massey. He's my guy, and he's got the Prime Act going. He's got about 50 signatories on it. He's got it buried in the Farm Bill, which means it doesn't get as much scrutiny. And
that means we can sell individual cuts of meat, and there's a few other things in there, right?
It's a lot more. Yeah. It would be. Look, it's not nearly what I would like to see, but it's toxic to Walmart, Costco, and Cargill, and
I'm of the belief that
outfits.
it's actually far more insidious. Like if you name all the conspiracy theories, we'd be hard pressed to find one I don't believe. But I'm of the belief that what we buy at the grocery store is not what it actually is said to be. Like,
right.
Yes, if we're eating clown food through a hole in the wall, we'd probably be better off to circle the outside of Walmart and buy their meat. But I don't think their meat. I think there's poisons in it.
Well, yeah, there certainly is. I mean, we've found 600 toxins in regular supermarket beef. There's all sorts of residual.
I think there's extras. I don't think it's put
things
there at the farm level. I think it's put in even afterwards.
Well, yeah, there's stuff that adds like poultry has 40 chlorine baths. So that's just and the skin is porous. Eggs are washed in chlorine. Chlorine goes in the shell, so you're eating chlorine. That's ubiquitous within the system.
Did you see over there where I was growing number 5 red dye and monosodium glutamate in the backyard? Did you see that?
No, if you can't make it in your kitchen and you can't pronounce it, it probably isn't
I'm with
good.
you. I heard you say that.
Michael Pollan has a thing. He says if it wasn't available before 1900, like for him, that's the cutoff.
Yeah.
That's when industrial food really took off. Before it wasn't available before 1900, you probably shouldn't eat it. And we can all be thankful that hot dogs were introduced at the 1890 World's Fair. That was the first. So, hot dogs just came right in under that.
Keep those.
Yeah, the 10-year thing.
So go ahead.
Yeah. So right now, that congressional hearing it was interesting that all the Democrats on the panel were all, the only thing they can see is monopolies, oligarchies, and we need to release the Federal Trade Commission on these guys, antitrust, because 4 companies control 85% of America's meat funnel. And all they can see is antitrust. We need to break them up. We need to get these guys busted up. And actually, no, all we need is to free up farmers like me and thousands like me to access our neighbors, our neighborhoods, our communities, and we would topple those guys in a
because
heartbeat.
nobody would go to them.
That's right. The only reason that those people have the monopoly or the centralization that they have in the market, only reason they have it is because of the hurdles to small operations to be able to access the market. That's the only reason. And so, Thomas Massey's Prime Act would certainly be a shot across the bow. It would open up that as a first step. And it's driving the other side crazy. I remember well, I was at I had a hearing in Virginia before the Senate, and during a break, trying to get some look, my position is if you want to come to my farm voluntarily, look around, smell around, ask around, and as a consenting adult, exercise freedom of choice.
Right.
Okay, I'm using powerful language here. And you want to then choose the fuel for your personal microbiome, you should be able to make that decision without a bureaucrat telling you no, without a bureaucrat being involved with us. And that's why I favor, my dream is what I call the Food Emancipation Proclamation. There again, that's a strong word. But the fact is our food system right now is enslaved by a host of food police regulations that prohibit an entrepreneur from accessing neighbors with stable, secure, safe food. And what's at the supermarket is not stable, it's not safe, and it's not secure. Look what happened in the spring of 2020. The fact is, if we had 30,000 small processors funneling our food to our neighborhoods instead of only 300 mega processors, instead of having a couple of aircraft carriers dealing with rocky shoals, I don't want to get a debate about COVID, but it was a rocky time, okay? Rocky shoals, disruptions. Instead of a couple of aircraft carriers dealing with it, if we had 30 speedboats, we would have been much more nimble and able to adapt. The market would have adapted so much more quickly, to the disruptions that were in the marketplace. And so I'm a big believer in the total unregulated food transactional space as consenting adults exercising freedom of choice.
How would we do that? What would that actually look like? Like in this town, for instance, what would you like to see happen in a city level?
Well, the problem is that a city can't do it because the federal will come in and say you can't do it.
Understood.
So another idea that I've had and shared with Rand Paul and some conservatives is we just need the federal government to give us a chance to try this. So I'm down in Richmond at a hearing, 15 years ago, on this very issue, and the head of meat and poultry inspection in Virginia pulls me aside during a break, and he says, Joel, we can't, it was very nice about it. He said, we can't give people freedom of choice on their food. They would choose bad farmers, bad food. He said, I quote him, he said, we could not build hospitals fast enough for all the sick people if we gave them food choice. And I'm sitting here, but my problem in the argument with him is we don't allow an experiment to take place in our country right now. I mean, I would like to say, well, would you let our county try it?
Right.
And let's see if everybody gets sick. Or maybe suddenly food prices come way down, the food is way better, and people, buy in short chains of custody instead of, long chains of custody and in the food system, and everything really, and maybe we don't have as many people going to the hospital. But you can't even have a trial. You can't even do an experiment because the federal food regulations preclude a locality or a state from doing an experiment.
Well, I think those regulators are owned by the pharmaceutical companies that create the pharmacy that goes into the meat and then requires the 4 or 5 medications to keep you from dying from the illness.
Yeah, well, that's a conspiracy idea, and that's probably where you and I disagree. I find that in my discourse in the public square, that if I assume that the food police mean well, it gets me a lot farther in the debate than if I say they're evil intended or pawns of Pfizer Pharmaceutical or whatever. So we can disagree on the messaging of that.
Yeah, I think there's probably two that mean well.
But I am confident that the guy that told me we can't build hospitals fast enough, he really believed that. He wasn't a pawn of Monsanto. He wasn't, he probably goes to the Lutheran church and takes his kids to soccer games too, And so I never assume that a person is evil intended. Do people have evil? Yeah, probably. There are probably people that have evil intent. There are, but even somebody that I disagree with as much as somebody like, Bill Gates, the guy actually thinks that we can't save humanity without killing half of us.
Well, I mean, he has.
Yeah, he has. But think if you actually believed,
I'll tone down. Go.
If you actually believed that you would save humanity by killing half of us, what could you ethically or morally justify doing? Anything, right? Anything. And so anyway, I try to stay away from the intent.
I understand.
We can disagree on so to this guy who says we can't build hospitals fast enough, I look at him and I say, could we run an experiment? What scares you so much about an experiment? You don't mind experimenting with weed killer, Roundup, genetically modified organisms, factory farms, mRNA,
chemotherapy.
Yeah, you don't mind experimenting with any of this stuff. What is wrong with if our county wanted to try an experiment for a period of time? Why is that so threatening? But it does. It threatens. It is so threatening to them that they can't. I mean, it's back to censorship.
Well, if it works, they're no longer required.
That's right. That's right. If it works, then suddenly their whole house of cards starts to collapse. And I mean, when we had our second big showdown they tried to tell us that we couldn't process chickens on the farm, and so we had the federal guy in from Philadelphia. We had the head of the state department in.
Top chicken cop.
Yeah, top chicken cop. Yeah. Cluck cop.
They call them possum cops for the.
Yeah.
We joke with the TWRA guys. I know there's one listening right now that's not laughing.
Yeah. Okay. So they told us that our we couldn't process in an open air facility. That was inherently it made the chicken adulterated.
Well, I'm just making dog food tomorrow, so it'll be okay.
Yeah. So we had interestingly at that time we'd had a lab test done on our chicken and on the supermarket chicken.
Oh no!
At the same to measure colony forming units of bacteria. Okay, swab test, culture.
Yeah, right.
All right, and we got the test back. We literally only had them in hand for like a month before all this big brouhaha stirred up. And I showed it to these guys, and we averaged 133 colony forming units. Supermarket chicken averaged 3,600.
Imagine that.
And it had chlorine. Ours didn't even have any chlorine.
Right.
No chlorine whatsoever. Theirs had 40 chlorine baths. And I showed this to them. They look at it, the two of them, they look at it.
And multi-species bacteria.
Yeah. And they said, well, and they handed it back to me. They said, well, this isn't all we're concerned about. I said, well, what else are you concerned about? I mean, this shows ours is cleaner. You would think if they really wanted safe food, they would immediately have gotten up, called Richmond and said, hey, Richmond, stop all the poultry processing in the state. We found a place that can do it 25 times, by the way, 25 times cleaner than we can without chlorine. Let's re-examine our,
No more chlorine sponsorship. Clorox, you're done.
Let's re-examine our protocols, okay? But no, he handed it back. He said, well, that's not all. I said, well, if it's clean, it's clean. Who cares how it got clean? He said, well, we're interested in other things. I said, so what other things? He said, well, you have to have 9 changing lockers for your employees. I said, this is early on, way, way early on. I said, we don't have any employees.
So federal prison systems have a company, an industry, and they make all the lockers, and everything GSA schedule has to buy the lockers so they can employ the slave labor. I'm sure there's something there, and it's not that, but
it's probably a good old boy thing, dating way back to whoever, right? So I said, look, we're 50 feet from our house. I'm right here. I don't need a change locker. I don't have any employees. So well, you need a bathroom. Said, Mom lives right there. We live right here. We got 2 bathrooms in both houses. And if I want to go number 1, I just step behind the tractor and go, what's the deal with that? And so this is the way the conversation goes.
The whole day.
Yeah, the conversation goes. And so it just became painfully obvious that they were not really interested in food safety. They were really interested in infrastructure, that you had to buy things, build, they were interested in basically concrete and
it's like
buying from businesses.
It's like gatekeeper, go big or go home.
Yeah.
You're not big enough to farm.
Right. So of course, that's when we got involved, and I was glad that I had spent 5 years in interscholastic debate and 4 years in intercollegiate debate, and we fought them on it, and we got a letter that we're fine, we're okay. But their position was that if your chicken is open to the air, it's automatically unfit to eat, unfit for human consumption.
They just destroyed a bunch of flocks last year or so. I mean, they hit some of the huge hatcheries.
Sure.
They were even talking about not being able to move baby chicks across. So,
that was the high path avian influenza outbreak, and there again, I talked to several people who lost flocks in that, who actually had supposedly high path AI, and all of them said that it doesn't kill all of them. It only kills sometimes most, sometimes not very many. My position is, look, we practice stockmanship at our farm. We don't keep cull animals. The way you move genetics forward is you keep the good ones and you cull the bad ones, right? And it's the way it is in everything. You keep the good ones, you cull the bad ones. And so my position is, well, if I've got 15,000 chickens in a house and they find avian influenza and 14,000 of them die, but 1,000 of them stay perfectly healthy,
that might remove it.
Why don't we take those birds and keep their genetics, rebreed, and we're going to get some strength? No, instead we soapsud them, suffocate them all, kill them, and try to figure out an mRNA crutch to come into the system and stop it. And so none of it makes credible scientific sense. None of it is reasonable. Even at the most elementary levels of stockmanship, none of it makes sense. But that's the policy, that's the protocols.
I've heard you mention chlorine several times. Now, we have something, you used to hear you could just splosh water back and forth, aerate it, and the chlorine would leave. Now we're using chloramine, which I hear does not leave. A lot of municipalities are using that. But a lot of people, myself included, for almost ever, watered with city water. We're on city water here. Mm-hmm. I do grow vegetables, and I do believe that they grow better out of my aquaponics system than out of that hose. What is the dangers with that? Does it accumulate in the plant? Does it stay in the body?
Yeah, well, I mean, most of these toxins like that, poisons, do bioaccumulate, especially in your liver, which is, and your kidneys.
Endocrine disruption.
Yeah. In your filtration system. And we've actually had customers, this is, of course, anecdotal, but we've had customers who when they touch a store-bought chicken, literally they get a rash up their arm. It's like poison ivy, boom, up their arm. And our chicken, no problem whatsoever. And so, there's a lot of things, it's interesting how the orthodox narrative from the government agencies, they tell us not to fear what we ought to be fearful of.
Right. Trust us.
And they tell us to fear what we shouldn't fear. And I mean, you can give your kid 4 glasses of Mountain Dew a day, but 1 teaspoon of raw milk, that's deadly. That's going to kill them. And so, we have this kind of completely inverted fear danger protocol within the government. I'm confident that in 2020, if nobody had said anything about anything, we wouldn't have had anything. But because people said, and I'm not using the word because this could be censored. So because people made a big deal, we got a big deal.
Right.
We tend to get big deals out of things we make big deals out of.
So in closing, last topic, can we buy a subscription of something from you? We can get clean meat.
Yes.
From you.
Yes.
Anywhere in the United States?
Yes. We ship nationwide. We started that July 4th, 2019. And we took a lot of heat for that because our reputation, our brand was definitely bioregional. We wanted to be bioregional. But what's happened in the last 10 to 15 years is that the cost of a physical bricks and mortar retail interface has escalated dramatically. Labor costs, insurance costs, all those, just the cost of building, okay, and permits, building permits, all those kind of things. While the cost of distribution has plummeted. I mean, the logistics, software logistics now. I mean, I heard that UPS and FedEx now, they have this software. You plug in all the addresses. The truck driver plugs in all the addresses of the day, and software automatically routes him to where he doesn't have to make any left-hand turns, and that saved 30% of their fuel bill.
Wow.
Can you imagine that kind of efficiency?
Yeah, in addition to automation on packaging.
Yeah, absolutely. So what's happened is, as the cost of a personal, physical interface has escalated, the cost of door-to-door delivery has plummeted. And so we began seeing, people we started losing customers. Well, why should I come out to the farm when I can just sit in my jammies into bed, order on ButcherBox? And, the thing is, most people aren't aware that that's coming from, Australia, and it's junk and blah, blah, blah. But
it might even be beyond Australia. I mean, to be labeled product of the United States.
Yeah, it can be from anywhere.
Nigeria.
That's right. So, I don't think we get too much beef from Africa, but anyway, you get the point. Absolutely. And so here we were, feeling pressure from this distribution. And again, it's fine to be nostalgic until you're obsolete.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so a day before you become obsolete, you got to leave your your nostalgic cult, and so we started working on this for a couple of years, and we realized we've got to open this up, start shipping. And so anyway, we did July 4th, 2019. Fortunately, then we had 8 months under our belt before 2020 broke out, and boy, then things just exploded as the store shelves went down and all that. You'll love this. We started this year, for the first time, shipping eggs.
Really?
Yeah. So, how do you do that? Well, we bought eggs from farms that ship. What kind of packing material? Who's the brand on this? That's the way you do your research, right? And so we started shipping eggs. And what's amazing is right now, we can ship eggs to New York City, Chicago, and Los Angeles cheaper than those people can get them at farmers market.
And they have the bloom on them still and everything?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm talking about just cheaper,
So
not just better, but cheaper. And the reason is because the cost of doing business in blue areas with smash and grab retail,
that's right.
high taxes, defund the police, the cost of doing business in those areas is now so high, we can ship eggs to those areas cheaper, and people can buy them on their doorstep cheaper than they can go down and buy them from a local farmer.
Do you have a program where we could put together a box and my listeners and viewers could buy that from you?
Absolutely. We are. I can't do it today.
Yes, I understand.
But we are very close. We are in a major, actually this week, revamping our website. We've got a new platform. It's going to have a different look, and it's because we're getting requests from people wanting to facilitate this whole thing, and let's get it going. And so for people who live in the city who want to have a direct connection with a farm that doesn't buy fertilizer from Putin,
but I want them to have a connection with your farm.
Yeah. Yes, we can absolutely do that. I can't do it tomorrow, but it is on our. We're having more and more of this. Kind of affiliates. Mm-hmm. We have one guy, one MD that has a site that sells supplements. He came to us and said, could you be my meat supplier? And so we have 9 boxes that we sell for him. He gets obviously a commission, but we drop ship. Mm-hmm. So, he handles that, and he makes a nice check every month and adds
I know
money.
Neethi has a box. That's where I had seen it.
Yeah. So we are fast trying to accommodate a couple more of these. So yes, we should definitely talk about that. And I'll have your people talk to my people on that. I'm not the one that does. My
people will be me.
Well, my people will not be me because
I understand
because I'm a Luddite, and I don't know all.
By we, I mean
outs.
Somebody who is not me. In closing, I know you've been here a long time. if it's worth doing, it's worth doing poorly at first. I've heard Billy say that 100 times, and that came from you.
Mm-hmm.
And I recently heard you say something about worthiness. What was that exactly? Do you remember how that went?
Yeah. So we have a real worthiness problem in our youth population today. From school shootings, any post-shooting interview with these guys, they're all guys, they're not girls. All of them, somehow, somewhere in their life, they didn't fit in. They felt like they were unworthy. They were never going to be loved. They were never going to be affirmed. Fentanyl. We've got teen suicide. We've got teen girls, bulimia, anorexia, eating disorders. When boys have low self-worth, they tend to harm others. When girls have low self-worth, they tend to harm themselves. And that's just, I'm not a child psychologist. That's what I read and what I see. My point is that we have a youth mental, emotional calamity in our country right now. And so my question is, so how does a young person feel worthy, feel I'm valuable? And I think that the way we get self-worth is by successfully accomplishing meaningful tasks.
That was it.
And every one of those words is important. Successfully accomplishing meaningful tasks. You don't feel self-worth when you get patted on the head and say you're a good boy, you're a good girl. For what? A good boy, what for? That's the obvious question. Because I did what? Because I'm what? Self-worth demands that you have actually done something, accomplished something. And so that's one reason I'm such a big believer in children and chores, children and gardens, children on homesteads. There are eggs to gather, weeds to pull, applesauce to grind, to can. There is stuff to do that you can successfully accomplish meaningful tasks that give you a sense of value and self-worth, that you are contributing. You're important. I mean, as adults, we say, I'm Joel, what do you do? Right? I mean, what we do is so wrapped up in what we are and how we view ourselves, what we do. And our problem is that we have so locked young people out of the workforce today. We call it child abuse when kids go pick apples.
Right.
When kids, perform tasks. I mean, we get 16-year-olds a driver's license and say, yeah, take 3,000 pounds of steel and hurtle it down the interstate 70 miles an hour, but you can't run a cordless drill and get paid for it because that's a power tool, And I mean, we used to take 16-year-old young people into our farm, but then, with the child labor laws, there's a 16-year-old can run a power drill. I mean, they can run anyway. Let me start. But we have essentially abused our young people by locking them out of adult world participation, and then we wonder why, when they hit 18, they failed to launch. Well, because we didn't give them a launch pad. They don't feel valuable because they've never done anything valuable. They've just been in the basement playing video games.
Mm-hmm. Helicopter parents create boomerangs.
Exactly. Yeah. And so I think that this practical, visceral interaction with life's fundamentals, food, chopping wood.
Right. You have ADHD, you need sunlight and exercise.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And Temple Grandin is all over that. The animal behaviorist, autistic. Got to get these kids out of the basement and get them, tearing apart an engine, painting a fence, do practical, meaningful tasks. And then as you age, you actually have accomplished things that give you that level of self-worth. And so you're not going to reach for the fentanyl. You're not going to go shoot people at school. You're not going to go through all this stuff because you have a niche in society to fill.
I think the phone thing, Babylonian rectangle of death, from him. I I think that's the thing. We don't communicate any longer. I mean, how many times? I mean, I'm even guilty of it myself when I sit down and I'm like, well, I've been with my wife 24 hours today, and we just both of us on the phone, and you look around and I'm like, are you, I'll even be to a I'm like, you texting him? Are you talking to him? You know, he's right there.
Yeah. Yeah. We had a steward one time that came to us from Apple Computer. I was out there speaking at a conference in Washington, and he said, "Hey, come down to Apple. I'll take you through." He'd gone back there after his stewardship, and so I went in, and there was a room, with like 20 new employees. It was a new recruit, and it was the most surreal thing. I walked in this room of 20 new. They had couches, and they were all sitting in an easy chair. There was not a single word. Every single one of them was on their device, doing whatever they were doing. There was not, it was dead silent. 20 young people, dead silent. They were waiting for an orientation session. They weren't working.
Right.
They were just in there, but there was zero conversation. And I thought, man, this is like something out of Pluto.
I call those weirdos.
Yeah. Yeah. That is just weird.
Yeah.
It's dehumanizing us.
Well, I think that's the move. I think that's the actual goal. I think a lot of it.
Right. And then when you dehumanize, then you can make automatons, and then you can all that. And then before you know it, you're using the word conspiracy.
Well, they've all come true. I mean, the elites, they're not worried. Like when we talk about cost of gas and cost to fill the refrigerator, it's not the low class talking about. It's that middle class. They want to push all of that. They want to take the majority and have further demarcation from themselves, is what I believe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So very last thing, what's Ty Lopez like?
Ty Lopez. So have you watched?
I've not met. I know some people that know him. I have watched some of his content, quite a bit actually.
Yeah.
But I'd only found out 2 days ago when they're like, where did you get, why do you know this? Where did this come from? How did this start? And he said, man, I interned with a farmer named Joel Salatin. I'm like, no way. Those circles just they became so small.
Yeah. He actually was just at the farm on Thursday and had an event there with 70 of his members, and did a market branding messaging seminar at the farm. So he was our first formal apprentice back, long time ago, 27, 28 years ago. It's been a good while. He was, I think, 18 when he came.
Wow.
19. And we loved him. We love him still. He's the most curious guy, interesting. And we've followed his trajectory, and we're just blessed to know him, and he's just a very unusual. He's smart. He reads widely.
That's what he said.
Yeah, he reads widely, and my mentor, Alan Nation, who he also considers a mentor for him, was a wide reader, and I'm a wide reader. I read stuff I know I'll disagree with, because I want to get in their head.
But you're quite the writer as well.
Yeah.
How many books?
16. Yeah, 16 books. And Ty is, he needs an assistant. He's a little bit like Einstein. He can't tie his shoes. He can't, he needs somebody to kind of keep him on. He has no sense of time.
Pierre, that'd be a great job for you.
Yeah, no sense of time, but he's so interesting because he retains all this stuff and connects dots, and is, he's history, economics, education, sociology, psychology, boom, all together, and that kind of eclectic, comprehensive blend is what we desperately need, because we've got all these people in silos that know more and more about less and less. And we desperately need people who are synthesizers, who can look at broad, seemingly unrelated things, and then put them together. And I think I do that some, but Ty that's his forte. He's really good at it.
Well, he credits you,
yeah,
and calls you his guru.
Yeah.
And man,
he's very charitable.
I've very much enjoyed this.
Yeah, I have too. Been very, very great.
And I appreciate you. And I'm going to tell you right here, we're going to do something. I'm not sure what that's going to be, but you're going to remember me the next time I go, hey, remember when you were sitting here?
Yeah, I certainly will.
We started doing these. We did the first one as a party and whispered it, and 200 people showed up. We did parties in the past, and we've had 900 on the property here. And when we did the first one, at the second one, Nicole said, who do you want here? And I said, I'm only doing these so we can get Salatin here.
Well, you're very kind.
So
yeah. I'm glad to be here. It's an honor and a delight to be here. Thank you. And thank you for your leadership. And, you know, we all have a sphere of influence that we can work in. And, you know, Stephen Covey, you know, developed that, the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And to me, one of the most profound parts of that book is where he draws those circles and he says, you know, here's what you can influence. Here's outside your sphere of influence. And the basic pitch is, if the more time you spend outside your sphere of influence, the smaller your actual sphere of influence becomes. And the more time you spend in your sphere of influence, the larger your overall sphere of influence gets. And I think that too often, that's what's the great thing about the Self-Reliance Festival is, you know, so many times people, all they do is rant against the man.
Yes.
Join the picket line, raw, you know, and it's all outside the sphere of influence. I can't do anything about the war in Ukraine. I can't do anything about the war in Israel. I can't do anything about Putin. I can't do anything about the Fed. I can't do anything, but I've got a sphere of influence.
Yes.
And I can leverage that. And over time, if we really focus on that, practically and viscerally leveraging within our sphere of influence, then our total influence actually increases.
Spirko says, does it change the temperature of the water in your pool? I like to say war within arm's reach. Can I smell it? Can I feel it? Can I touch it? Yeah. I can touch all these people right now.
Right. That's right. Great thing. Great to be with you.
Man, thank you.
Thank you.
My friend. I can call you friend now.
Yes, indeed. Absolutely. Yeah.